So, guys, I want you to pay attention to this video. As the campaign is drawing near, people want to actually understand what each of the candidates has to offer. But I just want to tell you guys that gone are the days when these politicians hire professionals to write down, things they will end up not implementing. We all know what Buhari promised Nigerians. They crafted out so many things, that they promised Nigerians, but at the end of the day, they never delivered what they told Nigerians they were coming to do. So, guys, I want you to watch out. Forget what these people will come to tell us. See, in this video that you're about to watch, you will hear the man said that the most important thing that Nigerians are watching out for now is the character of the persons who are coming to present themselves as presidential candidates. We have to look at their character, their pedigree. Where are they coming from? Their history. So, fellow obedience, shine your eyes. Make a thorough check. In short, we don't even need any check anymore. I just want you to stay focused. Stay focused, because we don't even need to start listening to Atiku and Tinubu on what they've penned down. They've hired people to write down for them that they want to tell Nigerians. These are not the things we want to hear. We've all made up our minds that we want to vote in Peter Obi, because Obi is talking about human infrastructure. Gone will be the days of ignorance, the days when Nigerians will be illiterate. You have millions of children out of schools. You have ASU not working. You finish from school, you can't even get a good job because you didn't get enough skills, in school. These are some of the things Obi is talking about. Peter Obi wants to move Nigeria from consumption to production. He wants to remove the sharing formula so that Nigerians can get back to work. So he has told us everything he wants to come and do for us. So don't listen to all these people that will come to tell you that they've already written down their manifesto and what they are going to do and what they will not do. All those things. We've been having all these manifestos before now. We don't care again. We have to look at personalities. We have to look at character. We have to look at the pedigree, the history of these people. Look at Atiku. Even in his present crisis in PDP, he can't fix it. He's promising Nigeria he's going to restructure, but there's no restructuring in PDP. So you don't need to listen to all these people. And what about Tinubu? Tinubu is an aged man. At the end of the day, he won't even be the one to be in charge of his government. He has health-related issues. He doesn't have that strength anymore. So at the end of the day, he won't be the one to be in charge of government, and then people will just come up, just like what Buhari is doing today. Nobody knows we have a president. So we don't want such thing to repeat itself again. With all the health issue Buhari is having, we don't want Tinubu to come again. There are so many allegations against Atiku when it comes to being fraudulent, and we don't want all those things. Let's just give Peter Obi, a younger person, let's give him this opportunity. Let's give Peter Obi, who is younger and who can think. You can see how active Peter Obi's brain is when it comes to mathematics, and meaning that he can think smartly. And I think Nigeria will be good again. So listen to this video and let me know what you think in the comment section. Please subscribe to my channel, like and share this video. Thank you so much, and bye.
We begin this hour with the fact that in a few days, the campaigns for 2023 elections will kick off, and Nigerians are looking forward to hear the potential presidents speak on their plans and ideas to develop the nation.
Absolutely. With the current situation in the country, issues of security, national economy, police reforms, restructuring, fiscal crisis, excessive poverty, and so on are issues Nigerians are expecting their potential leader to highlight in their campaigns. But what are the candidates saying so far? What is the plan of PDP, APC, Labour Party, and the NNPP?
Associate Professor Sam Amadi joins us now to discuss this issue. Dr. Amadi, thank you so much for being here. We've seen these candidates really released their manifestos ahead of the official flag off of campaigns on the 28th of this month. And what would you say from what you've seen, looking at the main political parties now, from the ruling APC to the main opposition PDP, Labour Party, and even the NNPP, what would you say is standing out for you, especially as it deals with the main issues currently bedeviling the nation, speaking about insecurity, economy, and the likes?
Well, I think the first thing is that thinking about the three major parties, plus of course the NNPR, NNPP has not really come up like APC, PDP, and Labour Party in terms of pushing more of their arguments. Maybe we'll hear more about them in the future as they begin the campaign. But they seem to converge almost on the same kind of economic policy. So, for example, both Atiku and P2B and Tinubu also think in terms of more private sector economic growth. They focus a lot on the economy, expectedly. The difference also are also clear. It looks like Atiku Abubakar continues with his clear idea around private sector participation. So his three key focus on economy will be more of private sector, of course, government monopoly, take it out in terms of privatization or public-private partnership. And again, trying to use the market forces, the market, to deal with prices. Distortion in pricing, subsidies, and all that would likely go under him. Tinubu provides something like a little bit of a contrast, looking at more of a governed market. So whereas Atiku is more of free market, Tinubu is like governed market. It talks about industrial policy, it talks about clusters, it talks about commodity pricing, the normal exchange, and the price control system of old. So once Atiku is more of free market, the market price determining much of the action and removing distortion. Tinubu actually thinks that there's need to do some kind of price control to enable rural farmers and rural development. So Tinubu is towards a little bit more of what you can call government intervention in getting prices right, getting institutions right. Atiku is right mostly on getting institutions right and allowing the market to determine the price. Now, each of these positions have weakness. P2B actually closer to Atiku, only that P2B now pushes in more of human development issues, pushes more about governance, basically transition from revenue sharing to production. And then part of P2B's argument would be that he invests more on human infrastructure prior to physical infrastructure. And now,
the small scale...
and focus on medium, small enterprises as a driver, innovation, education, and all that. But you see, interestingly, Atiku talks about industrial infrastructure development fund. Tinubu talks about infrastructure development plan and funding. So each of these people are focused on infrastructure, they're focusing also on economic growth, they're focusing also on liberalizing the energy
There's a common
sector,
denominator around them. But
which is market.
Yeah, but let's quickly look at NNPP. I remember less than a fortnight or about a fortnight ago, they had a national summit on the maritime industry.
Absolutely.
You know, talking about port, talking about the Nigerian Shippers Council, everything that has to do with maritime.
Yeah. But their policy is not different from Atiku's policy of also privatizing the maritime. Tinubu too talks in terms of liberalizing the oil and gas and those sectors. I think the key difference here would be three things. One, the character of each of these presidents.
To drive
their policy, the coherence of their policy, also the strategy for engagement. And again, what people are worried about, people like us, is that too much focus on the private sector. And in this case, the private sector hasn't got that kind of both the capacity we've seen from the power sector privatization, we've seen from others, that what a third world country like Nigeria needs might be a lot more of mobilizing capacity internally too, a lot more of government shaping how the private sector, where they play and how they play. And if you look at the minimum wage, think in terms of moving from production to consumption, consumption to production. You look at the purchasing power of Nigerians. You look at the labor rules, regulations that kind of reduce the capacity, inequality. Now, none of these people have accurately addressed the problem of poverty. The idea of Atiku will be that the growing storm carries off all the ship. So if the storm is moving, if the economy is growing at, let's say, Tinubu talks about that 17% GDP growth. Tinubu talks about GDP growth, making us not just the biggest economy in Africa, but also one of the big medium economies. But if we do not design coherent policies that lead to redistribution without damaging incentive for production, you will get people out of poverty.
That is very important, Dr. Amadi. But you know, at the end of the day, where, like you have said, one thing that stands out is the fact that we're looking at more private sector involvement in the development of the nation. But if you look at the evaluation of privatization policy of Nigeria since 1999 up until at least, let's go all the way to 2004, some would say it's not as successful as was sold to Nigerians, and not necessarily giving us the benefit. I'm talking the ordinary Nigerians now, that were promised to the people. So how can we find that balance now while they are pushing towards more private sector involvement, but how does that translate to the improvement in the lives of Nigerians where poverty is rife? We are the poverty capital at the end of the day.
The argument that they will put is, one is financing, private sector. Second is managerial, that they come with telecom. But you're right. If you look at what has happened elsewhere in the sector like telecom, what worked was liberalization and competition, not privatization. So the notion of private-driven economy has been sold to the third world countries for long. And the notion is very simple, that look, with private sector, you remove distortions, you get efficiency. But the problem is this: if you look at East Asia countries, what we've seen is the government that structures how the private sector behaves. Again, people argue, do we really have this private sector that we can allow or rely upon to grow both the social and physical infrastructure? How also do you structure how they play, in terms of not just what they do, how they do it, like the power sector, for example.
So that there's no monopoly now.
Well, competition, monopoly, but again, efficiency. You have to drive it by creating incentive, not just, and displaying pressure on private sector to deliver on government expectations. So some of us will want to see these candidates in the campaign trail speak more about how they move from strategy to operations and tactics. How do you really get this private sector to work differently? Atiku has a much more comprehensive policy that outlines strategy, operations and tactics. But the question is the experience of private sector and going by the global economy and the neoliberal issues that we've seen after the 2008 financial crisis. There's still small faith that the private sector, without a very strong developmental state, can actually cause Nigeria to leapfrog and develop its potential.
Very quickly, what's their strategy, agenda for the spate of insecurity in the country? Some are talking about decentralization of the police. Well,
I think for me the clearest should be P2B's US tour, where it talks about mixture of technology, mixture of poverty-based insecurity, and also a mixture of decentralizing the structure of policing. So if you get more efficiency by decentralizing, you get more efficiency by also having technology, but above all, you must be able to create rule-based society where there's deterrence, real deterrence in terms of administration of justice. If we continue to have a country that has no rule of law, then you can't control insecurity, because insecurity is also a failure of governance. So I think that each of these teams, they have good plans about state police, restructuring, but what will tip the scale is whose plan ties to credibility in terms of the candidates. So if you look at policy, and its implementation. If somebody says he's going to do open government, they have to look at their profile and their structure, whether they can sustain it. So what we'll be interrogating the days to go is whether these plans have enough coherence and alliance with both the pedigree, the history, and the structure that these candidates are putting forward to sustain the implementation of the plan.
That's quite carry the people. So that way it's not just, promises on a piece of paper. Absolutely. So that way we know how we can, hold them accountable if some of those promises are not really achieved. Dr. Sam Amadi would say thank you so much for joining us tonight.